Greetings, critters. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. All right, before I begin the usual disclaimers, there will be spoilers ahead. So if you haven't seen Vox Machina Season 3, Episodes 1 through 3, you might want to stop the video here. You've been warned. Secondly, as the title of this video suggests, these are my first impressions. I just saw the episodes twice, and these are my first impressions. They might change later. They might change in a month when I do the official review. But hey, that's the fun of it. And three, and most importantly, I haven't seen the corresponding episodes of Campaign 1 of Critical Role to this season. So I might point out things, I might predict things that are completely wrong, that are clearly explained and clearly established in the campaign. All right? I will watch the campaign after I finish watching Season 3. Which is what I always do, is the way I enjoy this Critical Roles media. So there you go. Anyway, so now that you've been warned, let's jump right into this, because there's a lot to cover here. Oh my God, so much happened in just these 3 episodes. Let's begin with A Deadly Bargain. So while Season 1 started with a cold opening and Season 2 picks up the story right where Season 1 left it off, Season 3, interestingly enough, begins in medias res, meaning in the middle of the story. We jump in right away with Vax stealthily infiltrating the ruins of Iman and spying on Thordak, only for it to go completely wrong. We cut away, and then, officially, we pick up the story where Season 2 left it off, when our heroes are having their clandestine meeting with Rayshawn, who apparently is not down with the Chroma Conclave anymore. There's some dysfunction in the junction, the honeymoon is over, and she wants to betray Thordak, i.e. help Vox Machina. So in this set, I can see why they started the episode with a little bit more exciting scene, because this scene, if they would have started with this scene, it would have just been hitting the audience with tons of exposition. All the respect in the world to Cree Summer, who plays Rayshawn, who delivers just tons and tons and tons of exposition and does it beautifully and in such a rhythmic and entertaining way that you don't feel like you're being bombarded with too much information. But I completely understand why they started with an action scene first, so they can warm up the audience and then give them all this information. So what does Rayshawn tell Vox Machina? Oh my God, so many things. For starters, that it's officially revealed that she was the one that released Thordak from the fire plane. Why did she do that? It wasn't to form the Chroma Conclave, and it wasn't to take over the world. It was because she has a runic curse. And apparently Thordak is the only one that knows how to break the curse. So she freed him in hopes that he would cure her in return, but he hasn't done that. Hence the reason why she wants to betray him. Furthermore, while she's a dragon that has a lot of powerful magic, she did not have the ability to remove the soul anchor, to free him from the soul anchor. So instead what she did was merge him with it, which made him more powerful, but at the same time is driving him insane. Hence the reason why he comes up with this elaborate plan of putting a team of dragons together and forming the biggest dragon nest on the planet, the biggest dragon nest in all of Exandria, so they can hatch hundreds and hundreds of new dragons to form an army and take over the planet. And she also reveals Thordak's apparent weakness, that even though Vox Machina did a good job collecting vestiges of divergence during Season 2, they don't have the one that can actually kill Thordak, which apparently is the plate of the Dawn Martyr, which is located in Ankarel. Most of Vox Machina is down with this plan. Unfortunately, Keyleth is not. Keyleth is not having it because, of course, Rayshawn released Thordak, which led to the near destruction of Pyra and then the absolute destruction of Iman. And furthermore, while Rayshawn wasn't directly responsible for those events, she did outright murder Sovereign Uriel. right in front of his family. So she's just as guilty, if not more so. So yeah, there's a parallel there. Not only is there dissension in the ranks within the Chroma Conclave, but there's a sudden friction that begins to occur in Vox Machina, specifically between Keyleth and the rest of the group. Keyleth gets mad, she leaves, and she retreats to the branches of the Sun Tree, I guess for comfort and for solitude. However, Vax follows her, and they have this sweet, intimate conversation, which leads to a moment that a lot of fans have been waiting for, their first kiss. And of course, in true Matt Mercer fashion, this beautiful, tender moment that the fans have been waiting for forever is completely undermined by Vax having this horrible vision of the future, which reveals that once Keyleth completes her Aramente and becomes the voice of the Tempest, she will outlive Vox Machina. And that haunting image completely ruins the moment, and what should have been one of the most tender and beautiful moments is completely tarnished by this horrible vision. So the group decides that, sure enough, Keyleth is correct. There is no good reason to blindly follow what Rayshawn suggested, so they decide on a compromise instead. Instead of just blindly going to Uncarel, they decide to go to Iman instead, to the ruins of Iman, and see if what Rayshawn claims is true. So they go there, and the story comes full circle with the opening. We see Vax's stealth mission, which goes completely wrong, only now we discover that the rest of Vox Machina is there, and they back him up, and they try to fight Thordak and Virgal as well, head on with the vestiges of divergence, and they do nothing to Thordak. It's a little ambiguous whether they can affect Virgal or not, but Thordak is definitely immune to these things. Rayshawn was 100% correct. So they have no choice but to run for it. They run into an abandoned building and they are trapped. Both dragons are coming at them. They have no choice. They're completely out of choices. And right there at the last second, Rayshawn appears and teleports them away at a great cost, as she is set on fire. Thankfully, she is saved by Keyleth and Pike, but in the process of this, it is 100% confirmed that Rayshawn is right. Everything that she told Vox Machina in Whitestone is correct, so they have no choice but to believe her and follow her plan. Go to Uncarel and find the plate of the Dawn Martyr, much to Keyleth's chagrin. So Sean Gilmore does them the great favor of taking them to Uncarel with his magic, which apparently is where he's from. While they're there, they plan to break into this Hall of Records, this temple, to steal the plate of the Dawn Martyr, but Sean wants none of it at first. So he says he's gonna retire and go sip on some Stossman wine, which is an Easter egg, as Stossman is the rival winery to the Lionette winery, which is the winery of Beauregard Lionette, Beau's family from Campaign 2 of Critical Role, and the subject of, in my opinion, the greatest episode of narrative telephone that Critical Role has ever done. Fuck those Stossmans. Fuck those goddamn Stossmans. Anyway, so that was a wonderful reference. So they go to the temple to try and steal the plate of the Dawn Martyr, but Scanlan doesn't go. He cashes in the favor that Vex'ahlia owes him. However, in the campaign, and this still might happen, and I apologize if I'm spoiling this for anyone who hasn't seen the campaign, the favor is different. The favor is that he commissions, goes to a haberdashery and commissions them to make a witch's hat for Vex'ahlia, and the favor is that every time that she rides her broom, she has to wear the hat. And Laura Bailey loves it, and she's, oh yeah, I'll wear it, and becomes a major part of Vexalia's character, that she's always wearing that witch's hat, especially when she's riding the broom. But that's not the favor that he asks for in the animated show, at least not so far. What he asks for is to borrow her broom while they're in Ank'Harel, which is part of Marquette, which is where Kaylee and Dr. Dranzel and his traveling troupe were headed in season 2. So he's going to borrow the broom so he can fly over and see his daughter. When he flies over to the, I don't know, club or pub where she is performing, we get our first Matt Mercer cameo for the season. This time around, he is a spice dealer. So there you go, there's our first Matt. The rest of the gang arrives at the temple to steal the vestige, but lo and behold, somebody hid it first, and that the thief is none other than Dr. Anna Ripley. And not only does she have her own pepper box, her own gun that she built herself based on Percy's design, but she has a couple of vestiges herself, namely my personal favorite vestige of Divergence, Cabal's Ruin, which is a cloak that can control and reverse magic. So using that vestige and her pepper box and her amazing skills, Dr. Anna Ripley makes a run for it. Vox Machina chases after her to the best of their abilities, but she keeps giving them the slip. Finally, Percy catches up with her. He has her cornered. He has a beat on her. It's done. The chase is over. Give over the vestiges, but lo and behold, she had an ace under her sleeve. She's not alone. She has a patron. She has somebody who has been helping her all along throughout this time, ever since they rescued her from Whitestone, and that is none other than Thordak, the demon that was attached to Percy during season 1, is back. So on that big, exciting reveal, the episode ends, and we cut to a quick graphic that shows that this episode is dedicated to the great Lance Reddick, who sadly passed away, the actor who played Thordak, the Cinder King. A lot of fans were concerned that they were going to have to find a replacement for him this season, but lo and behold, it was revealed by the cast and crew of The Legend of Vox Machina, as well as Sam Riegel's mom, Lenore Riegel, that Lance actually managed to finish his recordings for this season, which would make Thordak his final role before he passed away. Moving on to episode 2, Prisoners of Ank'Harel. Our cold opening shows that Percy is now a prisoner of both Dr. Anna Ripley and Orthax, and then we cut away to the new intro, which is amazing. I am not gonna go over it again. I already did a breakdown of the intro, and it's available on my Patreon page for your viewing pleasure. Meanwhile, Vox Machina goes back to the scene of the crime. Vex and Vax do a little sleuthing, a little deductions in the crime scene, and they discovered that the killer, Anna Ripley, entered through the window and used acid to break through the bars. Vax name drops the Clasp, which is the thieves guild that he was a part of. We cut back to Percy having his conversation, his encounter with Dr. Ripley and Orthax, and finally we discover what is Anna Ripley's plan, why she was colluding with Umbrasyl during season 2, and we find out that she plans to mass produce guns, and that she plans to use the power, the energy of the Vestiges of Divergence to basically power her factory and facilitate the production of these guns to the general public. And of course, Percy immediately sees the flaw in that plan, that if you give everybody deadly weapons, that just creates more violence, so on and so on. Some might say that this is Critical Role trying to be topical, but sadly, gun violence has been a problem that has prevailed in the United States for decades. I was born in the 80s, and I don't remember a time when gun violence wasn't a problem in this country. So It might sound like topical, but it's just commentary on a problem that sadly is ongoing in this country. We cut to Scanlon, who's watching Kaylee perform. She takes a break and Dr. Dransel takes over and sings none other than the Ballad of the Ruby of the Sea. The Ruby of the Sea is Marion Labor, the mother of Jester Labor, one of the members of the Mighty Nine from Campaign 2. However, during Campaign 2, we were misled into thinking that the Ballad of the Ruby of the Sea simply said, the Ruby of the Sea is the best lay ever. Apparently, there are more lyrics in that, and apparently those aren't even the lyrics at all. So once again, we were deceived by Jester. Cut back to Percy, and Dr. Ripley reveals that the reason she captured Percy is because she needs his genius. She wants him to work on said factory and said production of guns, and seemingly it appears that Percy is agreeing with this. Cut back to Vox Machina, and they are visiting the search for the acid that Dr. Ripley used to break into the temple has led them to Shumar's Sensational Sundries, which apparently is a competitor of Sean Gilmore, and Gilmore is not too happy to be there, but they go in and they discover that she didn't buy her supplies, her thieving supplies. She went in and flat out shot Shumar in the head and stole what she needed. While they're inside snooping around, there's a quick Easter egg and we see a cup from A Taste of Taldore, which is a Planet Hollywood style themed restaurant that was created by Abria Iyengar while she was DMing one of her campaigns with the Crown Keepers. Grog goes outside and actually does something really, really useful. He sees a couple of kids pretending like they have guns, playing outside, and he interrogates them, and he does a really good job of communicating with the kids, and finds out where approximately Dr. Ripley might be. So using the kids' directions, Vox Machina heads to where they believe Dr. Ripley is keeping Percy, but they are intercepted by the all-powerful magical guards of Uncarel, the Hand of Orb. These guys did not like that they broke into the temple, and furthermore, they have vestiges on them. The thief wanted to steal vestiges, and Percy's carrying a pepper box. The thief slash killer was carrying a pepper box, so they chase after them. They do their best to get away from them and get to Percy. Meanwhile, Percy is helping Dr. Ripley, but lo and behold, what he actually built was an explosive device. He uses it as subterfuge to get away, but he gets captured by Orthax. Things seem to be going very badly for Percy, and just in the nick of time, the rest of Vox Machina break in and save him, and everything seems hunky-dory, but unfortunately, the Hand of the Orb catch up with them. Our heroes get arrested and they are taken to be judged by the Empress Jamon Saord. I guess the Hand of Ord is named after her. Anyway, she is played by the great Mara Janot, so excellent casting there. Obviously, all the evidence against them is rather substantial, so it really seems like they cannot get out of this. So Percy throws himself on the sword. He takes full responsibility for the crimes, and so the rest of Vox Machina will be let go. Vox Machina and Gilmore get vanished from Uncarel. They can never return, and as they are being escorted out of the city, Scanlon is leaving the bar with Kaylee, and we see yet another wonderful Easter egg. Scanlon is holding a giant tankard like the ones that Sam Riegel used to use during Campaign 1 as an ongoing joke, where his tankards kept getting bigger and bigger. However, because of nervousness and because of the fact that through idle conversation, he found out that himself and the rest of Vox Machina are wanted in the city, he drank a little too much, and he's throwing up and being a disgusting drunk, and Keeley is just had enough of him for today and walks away. So right there, when Scanlon is at his lowest, laying in the middle of the street in his own vomit after bombing so badly with his, while trying to bond with his daughter, he sees all of his friends under arrest being escorted out of the city. They tell them the situation, and Scanlon hightails it back to the temple where, or the castle, I think it's a castle, where Percy is going to be executed for the crimes that Dr. Ripley committed. And I believe they're either executing him by either turning him into stone or by turning him into one of Empress Jamon's guards, because they put a crown on his head and he starts turning into something else. And I noticed that all the guards around her had the same crown, so maybe that's what they do with any kind of criminals in their town. They just turn them into guards to help maintain the peace, which is an interesting punishment. Anyway, so Percy is being transformed into one of these things or executed, not sure yet, and suddenly we hear objection, and we cut to Scanlan both saying the catchphrase and striking the iconic pose of Phoenix Wright, and that is a deep cut reference to the fact that Sam Riegel is also the English voice of Phoenix Wright, which was, I laughed my ass off. This is my favorite reference so far. Scanlan doesn't waste any time. He shows the Empress Myth Carver. She looks into Myth Carver, and of course, the Sword of Stories shows her the truth. And so she absolves Vox Machina of all their crimes. So now that Vox Machina and the Empress are buddies, she actually gives them some very valuable information that the plate of the Dawn Martyr that Dr. Ripley stole is fake. It's a forgery. The moment that the Empress found out that the Chroma Conclave was on the loose, and she knew that Thordak was vulnerable to the plate, and there was a possibility that they might come over to Uncarel to try and get it or destroy it, she took it and switched it with a facsimile, and that duplicate is what Dr. Ripley stole. However, there's a slight problem. The real one, she vanished to hell, literally to hell, and now is under the possession of a demon named Xerxes, and which leads to the end of this episode. And then through the end credits, we hear the ballad of the Ruby of the Sea, which is absolutely very lovely, but I will say that I still prefer what I believe to be the real one, which is the Ruby of the Sea is the best lay ever. Moving on to episode 3, Vexations. We start out with the bad guys here, which is one of the advantages of the animated series as opposed to the campaign. In the campaign, we're always with Vox Machina. In the animated show, we actually get to see certain scenes from the villain's point of view. And here we see pretty much what I had figured out during season 2, that the reason that Thordak wants the gold is not because he's greedy, is because he's using the melted gold to keep all the dragon eggs warm. So we see him actually pouring melted gold onto the eggs and musing to himself. Then he has a meeting with Virgal and Rayshawn, in which it's apparent that things aren't going well with the Chroma Conclave. There's a lot of loss of trust here, and Thordak feels like he can no longer count on Rayshawn. So he tells Virgal to put a bounty on Vox Machina, and anybody that can bring the mischievous mercenaries to him will get all of Rayshawn's domain, her entire cut of what they were going to take over of the world. So now there's a bounty on our heroes. So we cut to Whitestone, where we see that Vox Machina has reconvened, and they are there trying to plan their next move and how they're going to get to hell to get the plate of the Dawn Martyr. When Allura Vysoren suggests that they go to Draconia and talk to her friend, former party member, Dola, to find passage that way. And immediately, Kima lets it be known that things aren't cool between the two of them and Dola. So that's established right there and then. And right away, they establish the theme for this episode is relationships. We see that things are starting to escalate between Percy and Vexalia. And Vexalia even invites him to her room to spend some time together, which makes him very nervous. And he goes, he practices his speech, he brings some wine with him to quell the awkwardness of it all, opens the door, and Vexalia is buck-ass nude, waiting for him, grabs him, pulls him into the room, and they consummate their relationship. Another thing that a lot of fans were waiting for. And here, we cross-cut between that scene of these two characters being intimate to scenes of Vax'ildan and Keyleth having a having a conversation about their relationship. And in this moment, we get a genuine montage. The meaning of a montage has changed dramatically through the decades in filmmaking. Nowadays, a montage is, you know, the character training or advancing or used to pass the time a lot faster. What a montage used to be is cross-cutting between two contrasting scenes. So this is a genuine montage. You have two characters making the relationship official, all the while you have these two other characters seeing the relationship fall apart, seeing what could potentially be the end of the romantic relationship. So beautiful cross-cutting, animation, everything, writing, all just the combination of everything coming together, no pun intended, was absolutely brilliant and gorgeous, and all the respect in the world to the creators for delivering this. It was a good talk. As we continue on our theme of relationships, we find Scanlan on balcony playing Osisa's song from season 2, and Pike comes over to comfort him since she knows that he had such a horrible encounter with Kaylee. And in that moment, he gets the wrong vibe from Pike and goes to kiss her, and that's not what she meant at all, and he's super embarrassed, and he walks away. But as he's walking away, he mentions how he's gonna retire to his magic club and punch himself in the face, which might explain what that key that they found at the end of season 2 does. It might give him entry to a magical club. A lot of people were theorizing that it might be the gateway to Scanlan's magnificent mansion, which plays a major role in campaign 1. But I think they might have changed that, or again, it might be something that I'm yet to see in the campaign because I haven't seen the corresponding episodes. Percy leaves Vexalia's room and does the walk of shame and runs right into Vax, and it's super awkward and super freaking hilarious. As they are gearing up to roll out, Rayshawn appears to them again and lets them know that Thordak is getting suspicious and that they have 2 days at most to find the plate of the Dawn Martyr. They teleport, thanks to Allura, over to Draconia, and they meet up with Dola, who is played by none other than Rachel House, who some of you might recognize from Hunt for the Wilder People, as well as for playing Topaz in Thor Ragnarok. She is an amazing comedic performer. So awesome to have her on the show. So they meet up with her, and apparently the issues between her and Kima and Allura are not as bad as previously advertised. That's another plot point that's established right away. So she just guides them to this secret place in Draconia, where she opens up her and Allura. It takes 2 people to open this gate that will lead them to hell. However, they do the favorite thing of the creative team of the animated show, which is they split the party. Grog, Vax, Pike, Keyleth, and Scanlan go through the hell portal. Percy and Vexalia stay with Kima and Allura to keep a lookout and also to help open the portal once our heroes are done. They can only be in there for 12 hours, I believe. As the larger half of the party traverses hell, they do a quick Abbott and Costello routine, Vax and Grog. The name of the place is this, DIS. That's the place where they're headed to meet with Xerxes the Demon and hopefully get the plate of the Dawn Martyr. We have arrived at this, and Grog is like, this is a rock, this is hell, and they go back and forth, who's on first. So they do that routine. We cut back to the other half of the party that stayed in Draconia, and Virgal shows up, the big pit bull, the attack dog of the Chroma Conclave, the Ice Dragon, is there to hunt them down. Our heroes make a run for it, and they are misdirected by Dola, who betrayed them. Apparently, there is still some bad blood between her, Kima, and Allura. She was one of the members of the party that actually defeated Thordak and Pyra and vanished him to the fire plane. But while Kima and Allura got all the credit and were made part of the Council of Taldore, Dola was just left to fend for herself. She was just left behind, and she just ended up back in Draconia with nothing to show for her efforts in the defeat of Thordak. So she accepted the bounty that Thordak put out for Vox Machina, and Virgal has showed up to collect our heroes, and Dola believes that in return, not only will she get her all the titles and the riches and all the things that she deserves, but that the Chroma Conclave will spare Draconia. That is not the case. She is eaten right away while egging on Virgal. Virgal chases after our heroes. Vex comes up with another one of her great plans for Allura to create a force field, but to create it on the ground, and they use it as an ice sled. Kima falls off and falls down a cliff and disappears. Hopefully she's okay. She fell down a chasm at one point during that first half of the campaign 1 and survived, so hopefully she's all right. Anyway, so Allura, Percy, and Vexalia hide in a cave and get sealed inside. They can't find a way out, and while Allura is trying to find another exit, Vexalia and Percy basically decide that, you know, we're always going to be in danger. Things are always going to be bad. We can't just be friends with benefits. We love each other too much. This has to be a relationship. And that is established right away. And as they are trapped, Laura Bailey delivers this beautiful epic speech about how they're going to get out of there. They're going to find Kima, and the rest of their friends are going to find the vestige in the worst place ever. We transition to hell as our heroes are traveling through hell. We get the second Matt cameo for the season as this poor bastard is being tortured by unholy creatures down in hell. And they approach the capital of hell, to make contact with Xerxes. And our episode ends. And holy crap, just those 3 episodes felt like a freaking movie. So much happened, and I am blown away. My head is spinning. A lot of people are saying, holy shit, give me the next episode right away, but I'm gonna need these 7 days to digest this. Quick side note, Vox Machina Season 3 has already premiered with a 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes, so they're off to a good start. And I haven't checked that yet, but I think they're already #1, the most watched show today on Amazon Prime. And that's keeping in mind that today they also released the finale of Season 2 of The Rings of Power. So I'm pretty sure that today Vox Machina outdid The Lord of the Rings. Think about that for a second. Anyway, I'll see you guys again next week to find out what happens next, and to share my first impressions of the next 3 episodes of The Legend of Vox Machina Season 3. Until next time.